Outer Rim Defense Station Helix read, 14 hours before the betrayal. Major Celine Ward had read thousands of classified reports in her career. She'd seen the numbers that predicted galactic collapse, rogue blacksite experiments, even the final confession of the Droskari who tried to shut down a star. But this report? It made her vomit. On screen the data was brutal. Human ships destroyed by friendly fire during the siege of Femur Prime. Sniper alleys opened behind Allied lines. Coded transmissions leaking Earth fleet positions to the Altari, our supposed enemy. At the bottom, one name flickered, flagged by every AI in the system. The Zervani Dominion. Terran Treaty Level, Tier 1 Ally. Status, compromised. Celine's fist cracked the steel of her desk. This wasn't sabotage. It wasn't a mistake. It was a betrayal at the scale of genocide. 6 months earlier, the Treaty of Arx Vera. The galaxy had called it the Last War. 3 years. Billions dead. 4 sectors burned into lifeless cinders. And when Earth stood alone against the Altari Empire, it was the Zervani Dominion, humanity's closest diplomatic and military partner, that offered salvation. They pledged ships, intelligence, frontline troops. Celine was there when the treaties were signed. She remembered the Zervani High Chancellor Lavar Sorin, bowing before the Terran Assembly, promising loyalty. "Our blood is yours," he had said. "We will never strike against Earth." He smiled as he said it. And 3 days later, the first human hospital ship was vaporized by what was supposed to be Zervani cover fire. Present, Earth's Unified War Council. The chamber was sealed. Not just physically, digitally, psychically, politically. This room didn't exist. Not officially. Celine Ward stood before the 6 most dangerous people in the known galaxy, because they were all human, and they were done forgiving. President Armin Cade spoke first. "Is it confirmed?" Celine nodded. "Yes. The Zervani sold us to the Altari mid-campaign. In exchange for immunity and 3 habitable systems. We have comms records. Transaction logs. Even a capture from their side, where they joke about how easy it was." General Ilya Borskov growled. "They laugh while burning our wounded alive?" Celine dropped a datapad on the table. "They also recorded it. For internal morale." There was silence. Not the kind of silence that precedes a decision. The kind that buries mercy. President Cade's eyes hardened. "Then mercy is off the table." Location: Zervani Border Outpost, Elis 3. The Zervani didn't see it coming. Humanity didn't issue a warning. Didn't call a meeting. Didn't send a demand. Instead they sent a ship. Just one. Designated TNS Retribution. No flags. No signals. It translated into normal space in complete silence, and deleted the outpost in 3 seconds. No weapons. Just gravity distortion folded into a sphere the size of a marble. Every molecule of the station was erased. Zervani intelligence received the image after. A black flag painted on the side of the Terran vessel. No emblem. Just a word. Oathbreakers. Zervani Council, first reaction. They didn't panic. Not yet. Lavar Sorin stood calmly, sipping fire wine as the holograms of ruined outposts began to flicker across the chamber. We expected outrage. They're emotional creatures. But his second-in-command, Viros Darn, didn't look so confident. They're targeting logistics, not military. They've taken down 6 slipstream gates, 3 civilian depots, and our Terratech foundry on silos. Lavar blinked. Wait, silos? That was buried in a black site. Not anymore. They left us a message. The holoscreen shifted. One sentence hovered above the ashes of the silos foundry. "We built the fire. Now burn in it." For the first time, Lavar put down his drink. Earth's Operation Directive, Shadowfall. Celine stood in a darkened briefing room. Around her, operators. Ghost units. AI war clusters. People who didn't exist in databases, only in consequences. "We will not fight them in the open," she began. "They want a war of ships and soldiers. They want diplomacy and ceasefires and public outcry." She tapped the display. Dozens of targets lit up. Economic nodes, cultural temples, rare metal refineries, heirloom archives, and food convoys. "We are going to take everything they've built and turn it into smoke." A tech-augmented soldier raised his hand. "What about civilian structures?" Celine didn't blink. "If it's funded by Zervani blood money, it's already a war crime. Burn it." Zervani homeworld, panic behind marble walls. The core systems began to feel it. Farms failing. Medicines missing. Comms breaking down. The Terrans weren't bombing cities. They were unweaving a civilization. And no one could stop them. Lavar Sorin paced the throne chamber. They were always impulsive. Always short-sighted. They can't sustain this. Viros turned. They're not sustaining it. They're committing to it. He threw up a transmission pulled from the darknet of Terran comms. They betrayed us in battle. So we will erase their name from every map. Their stars will flicker and die and no one will remember why. We will be their ending. Humanity's hidden fleet, the ones we never declared. The Altari thought they knew Earth's strength. The Zorvani thought they'd catalogued every vessel in the Terran Navy. They were both wrong. Buried beneath Mars, under Europa's salt ocean, drifting in cloaked orbitals beyond Alpha Centauri, where the ships Earth never registered. Built in silence. Named in rage. Their hulls bore no serials. Their captains had no governments. They were fleets not of peacekeepers or diplomats. They were the dismantlers. And they had waited for a day like this. Celine's final words before Phase 2. As Earth prepared to burn the Zorvani's empire down to atoms, Celine addressed her team. We do not do this for glory. We do not do this for revenge. She stepped onto the deck of TNS Vendetta. We do this because they lied when we bled. And now every lie will cost them a world. TNS Vendetta, en route to Zorvani trade spine. Celine Ward stood motionless at the command deck's edge. Below her, the strike team prepped silently. No war cries. No chants. Just focus. That was the new Earth doctrine. Let silence do the screaming. T-3 minutes, came the AI voice, cold and indifferent. Above them lay the Zorvani trade spine, their oldest and most secure economic artery. Hundreds of ships, billions of credits worth of goods, orbital hubs stacked with 10 generations of interstellar legacy. And it was about to vanish. Celine issued one order. No survivors. No warnings. We aren't here to conquer. We're here to take what they built and turn it into ash. The Vendetta opened its payload bays. And Earth's second wave began. Zorvani trade spine, 43 seconds into the assault. The Zorvani convoy commander barely had time to scream. What he saw didn't make sense. Ships that shimmered into place from within his own escort. Cloaked frigates running no heat. Drones seeded into Zorvani haulers weeks ago, waiting to activate. Cargo modules ruptured inward. Imploding, not exploding, suggesting internal sabotage so sophisticated their best AI couldn't reverse engineer it. By the time orbital stations tried to scramble fighters, they were already on fire. The fleet never stood a chance. 17 trade hubs. Gone. 2 billion in energy-backed credits, liquidated. And broadcast across the galaxy? Only 3 words. Debt repaid. Begin collection. Zorvani capital world, riots and warnings. Lavar Sorin screamed at the hollow. This is madness. We outnumber them 10 to 1. His council was in disarray. Civilians had begun to riot, demanding answers. Markets were crashing. Off-world corporations were pulling out before their assets could be liberated by Earth. And still, no declaration of war. No offer of surrender. Just loss after loss. Counselor Varen slammed her hands on the table. They don't want territory. They don't even want reparations. Lavar snarled, then what do they want? A soft voice from the corner answered. Viros darn. Still calm. Still observing. They want to erase us. Not just from star maps. From memory. Terran offensive logs, Operation, Salt the Archive. Deep beneath the Zorvani academic moon of Telene Prime sat the Vault of Language. An archive of 22 million years of cultural data, species linguistics, evolutionary syntax, art, music and ancient treaty glyphs. It was one of the most respected historical institutions in the galaxy. And Earth dropped it into a gravity well. The vault collapsed into a neutron-rich singularity, taking every language root the Zorvani had ever recorded. They left a beacon behind. History is earned. You spent it on betrayal. Zorvani military response, collapse from within. Lavar had no choice. He mobilized the home fleet. 50 dreadnoughts. 3,000 support craft. Every last military satellite brought online. But it didn't matter. Because the moment they went active, internal sabotage kicked in. Weapons failed to arm. Engines misfired. Comms looped in endless echoes of Earth's message. We trusted you. You sold us. Now you watch us take it all. Zorvani engineers tried to trace the virus. They failed. Because it wasn't a virus. It was a gift from Earth, delivered before the war even began. Embedded by trust. Fueled by betrayal. And time for now. Galactic Accord emergency session. The others panic. The Drask withdrew all ambassadors from Zorvani space. The Valari declared neutrality. Even the Shahari, once smug allies of the Dominion, refused to answer distress calls. Because no one wanted to be next. And everyone understood one thing. This wasn't war. It was surgical extinction. Earth didn't send diplomats. Didn't posture. Didn't gloat. They sent justice, measured in fire and silence. And the Accord began to fear the humans not because of their rage, but because of their discipline. Zorvani Inner Sanctum, the plea. 3 days after the trade spine fell, Lavar Soren finally caved. He sent a private transmission to Earth's War Council. It was not a surrender. Not exactly. Just desperation. You've made your point. You've crippled us. The Altari never gave us what we expected. It was a miscalculation. We beg only that you spare our inner worlds. Let us remain. The reply came not from President Cade or General Borskov. It came from Celine Ward. Her face was expressionless. Behind her, fires burned on what used to be one of the Zorvani's sacred orbital gardens. You didn't make a miscalculation. You made a choice. And now we're choosing too. You gave Earth to the wolves. Now we're giving you to memory. Earth transmission, galaxy-wide broadcast. Then it happened. Humanity went public. Across every comms relay, every backchannel, pirate wave and Accord diplomatic line, a message lit up with perfect clarity. A face, terrifying in its calm. Celine. This is not vengeance. This is mathematics. You subtracted our trust. Now we subtract your legacy. Behind her ships moved. Silent as guilt. Precise as judgment. She continued, we will take your wealth, your stories, your monuments, your past, your maps. And one day your children will ask, who were we before Earth came? And there will be no answer. The feed ended. But the dread did not. Final scene, one child, one question. A Zorvani child sat beside her father on a ruined balcony. Fires lit the sky. The stars above were dimmed by Terran jammers. Father, why do they hate us? The father, once a historian, now a refugee, closed his eyes. They don't hate us. Then why are they taking everything? He looked toward the horizon, where a Terran cruiser hovered in silence like a ghost waiting to erase another chapter. Because we taught them what betrayal costs. And now, child, they're teaching the rest of the galaxy never to forget. Zorvani capital, Iskar Prime, the fall begins. The storm didn't come with bombs. It came with abandonment. Power grids failed first. Not from attack, but from smart infrastructure redirection. Satellites rerouted their own energy away from cities. Their own systems betrayed them. Then the archives, government servers, AI compilers, historical records, all corrupted. Every name, date, treaty, and noble lineage, deleted or overwritten with one word. Oathbreakers. Hospitals lost patient logs. Transit systems showed coordinates for planets that didn't exist. And the music broadcast over public channels? Human lullabies. No demands. No speeches. Just the sound of a cradle song in every Zorvani home. Sleep now, stars are watching. You'll forget who you were. The Accord fractures, Earth's message was clear. By the time Earth dismantled the Zorvani border systems, the Galactic Accord was on the edge of collapse. The Valari sent an emergency delegation to Earth. They never received a response. Not a word. Not a face. Just a file. All futures require memory. Betrayal deletes it. The implication was undeniable. Earth wasn't here to win. They were here to teach. Not through lectures. Through consequences. And it terrified the Accord more than any war ever had. Iskar Prime, riots without words. The Zorvani no longer organized protests. There was no leadership. The last dozen nobles had vanished. Some in Terran strikes, some simply fleeing and never arriving at their escape points. Earth wasn't targeting leadership anymore. It was targeting identity. The National Museum? Gone. The planetary anthem? Deleted from every musical archive. Street signs began to glitch, displaying Terran battle names. The language algorithm AIs began auto-correcting Zorvani dialects into English phonetics. And children who had never heard Earth's tongue began repeating one phrase in sleep. We remember what you did. The Terran Directive, Phase 3, Cultural Collapse. On board the TNS final note, Celine Ward read the report with a soldier's precision. Zorvani resistance had ended. Now came the final stroke. A digital dismantling campaign that would scrub every sign the Dominion ever existed. Rewrite star charts. Convert currency algorithms to bypass Zorvani tokens. Rename common minerals sourced from their territories. Target and erase artistic, linguistic, and mythological footprints across open networks. Celine turned to her team. These aren't acts of war, she said coldly. They're acts of memory removal. When we're done, the Zorvani won't be a nation. They'll be a rumor. Zorvani outskirts, the resistance tries to fight back. A few Zorvani fighters refused to kneel. They called themselves the Last Flame. Their ships were fast, desperate. They launched suicidal raids against Earth's Black Flag fleets. And for a few minutes they won a skirmish. Destroyed a relay station. Hijacked a Terran destroyer. Broadcasted a message. We still live. We still burn. You can erase our name, but not our defiance. The response? The TNS final note intercepted their signal, traced it, and dropped an experimental memory compression warhead on the transmitter. No explosion. Just silence. The system resynced itself. And the galaxy never remembered the Last Flame had ever existed. Meanwhile, on Earth was calm. Not triumphant. Not hysterical. Just focused. The media didn't broadcast the war. The government gave no speeches. Families didn't hold parades. Because this wasn't a war. It was a surgery. A nationwide psychological convergence had occurred. Earth didn't need to tell its people what was happening. They knew. They had watched their allies shake hands, and then guide enemy nukes toward humanitarian relief ships. They had seen their trust weaponized. And now they were simply cleaning the wound. Zorvani refugees, no one lets them in. By the third cycle of collapse, millions of Zorvani civilians tried to escape. Starliners filled with children, elders, entire bloodlines seeking asylum. But no one accepted them. Not the Drask. Not the Concord. Not even independent colonies. Why? Because Earth didn't threaten anyone. Earth simply remembered who betrayed them. And those who sheltered betrayal might be remembered too. So the refugees drifted, foodless, nameless, flagless, toward the edge of space. Some lived, but most just faded. Forgotten like the songs they once sang. Final assault, the palace erased. There was no invasion. Celine Ward landed alone. No soldiers. No fleet. No pageantry. Just her. She walked through the burned Zorvani palace, boots echoing in a hall where monarchs once declared themselves divine. She stopped before the throne. And sat. For a long time she said nothing. Then she whispered not to a person but to history. You wanted us weak. Predictable. Grateful. Disposable. Instead, we became the consequence. Then she placed a memory stone at the throne's base. It contained the names of every Terran civilian who died during the betrayal. And as she stood to leave, a pulse triggered. The palace folded in on itself. Not destroyed, just removed from time. Galactic Accord, final decision. Earth never petitioned for Zorvani territory. They didn't occupy systems. Didn't seize industries. They just deleted everything Zorvani ever met. And the Accord finally voted. Zorvani Dominion, stripped of recognition. All treaties void. All mentions removed from Accord databases. Cultural ban initiated. Official record reads, extinct via Terran directive. No war declared. Just closure. Final scene, Earth's last message. Celine Ward looked into the final transmission recorder. Her face was unreadable. Her voice steady. We don't seek power. We don't demand apologies. We were offered trust. You gave us betrayal. So we gave you a truth you'll never forget. Even if no one remembers your name. She looked past the camera. Toward stars that were finally quiet. For those who think of betrayal as strategy, let this be the price. TNS final note, deep orbit over what remains of Iskar Prime. The feed had gone dark. Not disrupted, deleted. No more cries for mercy. No diplomatic pleas. No emergency pings from refugee flotillas. No more Zorvani propaganda about surviving the storm. Just silence. Celine Ward stared out across the remains of a once great world. Once it was known for orbital gardens, crystalline cathedrals, the philosopher's chain that reached from atmosphere to vacuum. Now, a cold marble hung in space. All resources stripped. All systems scorched. Every transmission center offline. Every name, forgotten. And then, finally, Celine spoke to her crew. We're done. The Zorvani Dominion no longer exists. No records. No data. No history. Only echoes. The crew of Final Note didn't cheer. Didn't cry. They simply nodded. The mission wasn't vengeance. It was closure. Earth, global response to Final Strike. There were no parades. No news coverage. Only a quiet pulse on every Terran device, every screen, every implanted neurochip. Directive complete. And beneath it, a single quote. We remember who we are, not because we cling to pain, but because we survived it. The world moved on. Factories shifted from stealth tech back to civilian goods. Soldiers returned to their families. Most didn't speak about what they'd done. Some couldn't. But everywhere, from London to Lunar 6, a new word began to appear, carved in stone, inked into skin, or burned onto old Terran banners. Never again. Galactic Accord, quiet panic. In the shadow of the Zorvani erasure, the rest of the galaxy trembled. Not because Earth might come for them, but because Earth didn't ask for anything. No demands. No reparations. No negotiations. No control of Zorvani space. They took nothing, except memory. And that was more terrifying than conquest. Species that once mocked Terran emotional volatility now instituted emergency ethics councils. The Valari restructured their alliances overnight. The Drask outlawed betrayal in war as a capital crime. Even the insectoid Ratel sent a message to Earth: we are not your enemy. But Earth didn't respond. Because Earth had nothing more to say. 10 years later, a library in the dark. A child on a border moon, human, perhaps half something else, walked into a quiet observatory, brushing dust from an abandoned console. No signal. No lights. Just a name carved into stone. Zorvani Dominion, removed 2436 AG. Reason, Oathbreakers. The child tapped the console, curious. It wouldn't respond. But a whisper played, recorded long ago. Faint. Almost forgotten. Celine Ward's voice. Don't become what you destroy. The child didn't understand the context. Only that the lesson meant something. She would tell others. The Zorvani wouldn't be remembered as heroes. Not even as villains. Just a moment in time when Earth chose not to forget. Elsewhere, a whisper beyond the stars. But not everyone was content. From the black edges of the Perseus break, a signal flared, faint, ancient, not human. It pulsed like a warning. Not from the Zorvani. From something older. An intelligence that had watched Earth's retaliation. Not with fear. Not with admiration. But with interest. A cold analysis. A message translated from frequencies that hadn't existed before Earth's uplift. You remember too well. You erase too deeply. When memory becomes weapon. We must decide if you're the archive or the threat. The signal ended. But its meaning lingered. The galaxy was listening. And now, it feared forgetting as much as it feared humanity. Earth, memorial of the forgotten war. Celine Ward, now retired, walked alone beneath a canopy of black glass panels. Each panel bore no name, just a hollow space where a Zorvani memory might have gone. Not to honor them, but to remember the cost of forgetting who they were. She stopped at the last panel. Etched there. We are the fire that remembers. And below it, barely visible. This time we came with silence. Next time we won't. Studio microphone void narratives, final broadcast, the Oathbreaker War, archive complete. Transmission final .001, now catalogued in Forbidden Histories. They didn't expect humanity to survive. They thought betrayal would break us. Instead, we became the flame that consumes silence. We burned their memory, not for revenge, but to make sure no one ever thinks betrayal is easy again. Skull, we are not your conquerors. We are your consequence. Milky Way. Subscribe to the Void Narratives. For those stories the galaxy tries to bury. The forgotten truths. The quiet vengeance. And the reasons no one dares test Earth twice. Satellite antenna.